out of Matthew chapter 25. Matthew chapter 25. And before I go there, I do want to remind us to be in prayer. This week has been a unique week, not necessarily for me. It's not that uncommon for me to preach a funeral and also conduct a wedding. But it is quite uncommon to conduct a funeral and a day or two later conduct a wedding out of the same family. So this family has been through an array of emotions. So one part we need to pray the Lord helps them with the grieving, and then the other is that we join with them in prayers. They celebrate Brandon and Kelsey. The wedding yesterday was a wonderful wedding, and and I appreciate everyone that turned out for the wedding and the funeral from the church here. So it meant a lot to the family, and it means a lot to me to look back at the audience and see some very familiar faces. And we definitely miss the bride and groom because they're gone, and they're normally up here singing and playing, so we did miss them. But this message is being taken from the context of a wedding. And I'm hoping that I can do service to this, because many times when we preach this, we preach this from a perspective of only from a salvation point of view. And today I want to bring not only that out, but some other areas. It's not only a parable, but even an allegory, meaning that I truly believe there are hidden meanings in some of the parables and allegories that we can read in the Scripture. The area that I want to bring out in this is not so much of being prepared, because that is the cusp of this, but more of recognizing the day in which we are living. This is definitely seen in this passage, and with these 10 virgins, we recognize that they understood their role. They knew what was going on. They knew what to expect. But we see quite a difference in how each one approached this. I brought up a video. You know, 15, 20 years ago, whenever I would start speaking about things that were coming to the world, in particular America, I'll admit very few even understood it. I don't even know how much I understood it. But simply knowing the Lord was burning something inside of me, I decided I would go ahead, and all these years I've been bringing these warnings out, even though I had nothing but what the Lord was burning in my heart as evidence. Well, today the evidence is all around us. You may not see it, but it's because you're just not paying attention. Many of the very things, maybe not the particular things, but the problems that we're facing today, many people in the Christian world seeing these days fastly approaching. Some because of the Lord showing them, but some of us also because we stopped and listened to what people were saying and started recognizing that many of these people are telling us what they're getting ready to do. And we started paying attention to this. In 2015, the Lord didn't speak to me and tell me something huge was going to happen in 2020. It's the group that I was with when they unveiled the 2030 agenda, and as a few of us began to look at this, and they being much more versed in the 21 agenda than myself, kind of brought me up to speed with them, and we realized in order for this to happen, there has to be some type of major movement in 2020. And I said that even from the pulpit here more than once. And we see what happened in 2020. Well, I'm going to show you a clip of a man. It's 57 seconds long. I promise you it's not being shown in any other church, and that's okay. A lot of my sermons are never preached anywhere else but here, and that's fine. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just what it is. But this man's name is Klaus Schwab. He is a German billionaire that is the founder of the WEF, the World Economic Forum, who is the author, the World Economic Forum, of the Great Reset that you've heard me speak about. And the reason I want to show this, because a year ago, he began to speak again. Now I'm going to tell you, when this man speaks, you would be wise to at least listen. He not that he's a good man. I'm not saying that. But his agenda, and again, as many times as I've mentioned it, and even on a Wednesday before, went into more detail on the Great Reset. If you've not looked at that, you need to. It's such a detailed plan of where the world wants to go, and their agenda, and this Great Reset is the driving force behind the UN 30 agenda. It is very important because this is where they're trying to lead us. And Jesus told us, you have to live in the world, you just can't be part of it. In order to live in the world, if we don't understand what's going on, we'll become part of the world. We have to be very careful and just closing our eyes because we think this doesn't concern us or it doesn't concern our Christian way of life. But when this man speaks, it's kind of like Elon Musk. Everyone knows who Elon Musk is. When Elon Musk speaks, especially in the markets, especially in the crypto markets, he's the one that many people become millionaires that had the part of this Dogecoin. When he spoke in favor of it, it went through the roof. When he spoke being negative toward it, the bottom fell out of it. Well, this is the type of influence that Klaus Schwab has in implementing and being helpful in moving us further into the Great Reset. So, Tracy, instead of understand this man, he's telling you what happened with COVID-19, and this was in June or July of 2020, is nothing but a mere disturbance for what's coming. And if it may not mean anything to you, because if you don't know who this man is, if you don't know the agenda, and if you've ever read the book Plato's Republic, and I refer to this often, Socrates is forming a city, a world, a city, and in this city, this is the way he wants things. And these are people that are allowed. And these are the people we're going to allow in. And this is the ones that we're not going to allow. There's a whole array of things. Well, this is what this Great Reset, they cover everything in our life. And I'm going to use a passage today to help us to realize the importance it is for us to be aware of things that this man is talking about. And I do this at risk of getting the emails. Trust me, I get the emails and I get the texts. And quite often, these things have to be taken off because they're so vulgar. So I get the emails and I get the texts from people, and that's fine. That it's just going to have to be. But it's important for us to realize, because if we do not realize what's on the horizon, we will not be prepared. And you can say, well, I'm just going to trust in the Lord. Well, I'm telling you that trusting in the Lord should be speaking to us to get up and make sure, according to what we see coming, that we have to, first of all, again, and I drove this home last week, we better be prepared spiritually, and that's only going to happen through prayer, which will bleed over into the rest of our life. It will cause us to make moves in other areas of our life. Things like this Great Reset, and I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to talk but just a little. But they're against, it's going to be anti-Christian. It doesn't say that, but all you have to do is read it. It's going to be anti-capitalism. And they basically do say that. But they're also going to merge AI and humans. This is already happening. And the technology is already here. They even talk now about this 3D printing. That the technology is here in order, because there's such a high risk, and we have so many people on waiting lists for hearts or lungs or kidneys, that so many people are dying because they're over here on a waiting list and they can't get to them. And then there's a high risk of the body rejecting this new organ they've introduced to the body. So they have the technology to go to the person that is actually needing the transplant, whatever it is, and take part of the DNA and print and grow the own organ that they need, which would make it very less chance of the body rejecting. You might say, well, Pastor, this is all sci-fi. It may be sci-fi to you, but it's reality to a lot of people. These things are happening right before our very eyes. As I read this passage, I want to make something very clear. We're not going to get the cusp of this, because we do not, even if you've studied Jewish weddings, you still don't have a good understanding, because it's not been taught to us during this time all the aspects of a Jewish wedding. Now, we can talk to a Jew today, but for the most part, they've not. We don't know exactly every aspect of a Jewish wedding. And in America, we definitely don't understand it, because we do not follow that process that we would see. But the point being, all the people involved in this knew exactly what was going on. They not only knew exactly what was going on, but they knew the delay of the bridegroom could be a possibility. They understood. And that's all I'm asking for us today, is to understand. To understand where we are, and what you choose to do with that is going to be totally up to you. But you need to at least understand where we are in history, and then hopefully be like the 5 wise virgins and do the right thing. So chapter 25, verse 1, we'll get 13 verses here. Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins, who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. But while the bridegroom was delayed, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight a cry was heard, Behold, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, No, lest there not be enough for us and you, but go rather to those who sell and buy for yourself. Well, that's not a very Christian thing to do, is it? But anyway, it's what they did. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding, and the door was shut. Afterwards, the other virgins came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Assuredly I say to you, I do not know you. Then the warning for us, Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming. I will tell you, not all, but many Christians today, we've developed an attitude, I'm just going to trust God, that He's just going to take care of me, and we let it go at that. Trusting God, we should do it. We talked about this in Sunday school. And having faith in God, it's got to be there. But just sitting and not even considering what's at hand is a result of we really do not understand what's coming. In this passage and other passages like it, we see Christ with His and how He continues to teach His followers the necessity of a continual readiness as His day approaches. In other words, He's teaching a continual readiness. That's why I submit to you, this goes beyond just salvation. This goes beyond just making sure that we're going to make it to heaven, because it's a continual readiness. Once you get your life and you give your life to the Lord, okay, that's one thing. Now your eternity, you've decided you're going to follow Christ, so you've made that choice. But we see there has to be a continual readiness. Now, I'm not saying that at the end of this, and then it poses some questions, because at the end of this, 5 of them were left out. 5 of them were left out. And we can say, because we're here looking back, and say, well, the 5 really wasn't part of the ceremony. Really? We have to be careful. See, if we're not careful, we make our mentality of what we see, how we see things, fit what seems to work. But I will submit to you that if you had walked into that room prior to later on in the verse, you would have never seen a difference between these girls. Not one difference. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but understand there's also some meanings in here. Yes, it can be dealing with salvation, and this is somewhere is where we've lost this part of the Bible in the Christian world, is that we have failed to take this book and also dig out even the personal and the physical properties of it. It's more than just a spiritual book. It also gives us some good things on how we should be prepared and some things that we should be doing. And that's something that the Jewish people have been so good at seeing it. They may miss it as far as Christ goes, but they understand the physical aspects of it. That's why I say you could read in the book of Judges about the parable of the trees, and Israel would know immediately that the fig tree was the generation, and each one of these trees represented either their religious aspect or their national aspect. They understood that part of the Word of God. We kind of have lost that. We've had it, but we've kind of lost it. So today we only look at the spiritual aspects of it, and which is fine. That's going to be okay. But when we get into a place in history where we are today, it could be very, I don't want to use the word detrimental, but it could sure make life much worse on us by not understanding all aspects of it. Here, this man just spoke and said that there's a cyber pandemic that is on the horizon that's going to make COVID-19 look like a mere disturbance. Well, just about 4 or 5 days ago, I get on the stock market and look at every day, multiple times a day, interested in what's going on with the markets. And lo and behold, there was a message there at the NASDAQ from their page stating, if you're tired of lockdowns from COVID-19, get ready, because the cyber pandemic is going to lock us down in the future. And I may have missed it a little bit, but that's exactly what they were saying. So we're hearing the echoes of what's in the works. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a firm believer this is going to happen. Does that mean that I think we're going to go into a grid down scenario from here to eternity? Absolutely not. Do I think it's going to last for years and years? Absolutely not. But I do believe that it will bring some type of, or it definitely could bring some type of disruption that will help further the agenda of the Great Reset and the 21 agenda. Because I will tell you, at the point that we get rid of the money, and people get so weirded out over cryptocurrency. I mean, there's some Christians out here that are saying Bitcoin is the mark of the beast. Are you joking? And these people that are making statements like that have no idea what they're talking about. It doesn't matter what the monetary system, it is going to, whether it's a crypto or a digital, and that is two different things. But it's not the money that that's going to drive the Antichrist in order for him to fulfill what the Bible says, that those that do not take his mark, the number of a man, will not be able to buy or sell. Up until here in the last several years, that technology wasn't even available, but it's here now. And so the technology is going to be here. The internet is going to be up. I'm not going to say that you might not be restricted, but these things are going to be here because the Antichrist will need this type of technology, which is blockchain, to be able to control who buys and who sells. So I'm not talking about a grid down scenario that's going to last forever. It's going to last long enough for them to come out and completely change. You think COVID-19 changed the world? You watch what this is going to do. And are you ready for that change? Because I'm going to tell you, if you are not, you'll acclimate to it. If we would have talked 2018, 2019, and we would have had enough insight to say COVID is coming and this is what it's going to do, it's going to lock us down, it's going to destroy the finances for country after country after country, and it's going to do this. It's going to divide countries even further. If we had known that, and yet still not do anything, then we would still be where we are today. Because what's happened, we've acclimated to the atmosphere we live in. We've now learned to live this way. And by the way, just another piece of the puzzle that most of you probably are not aware. This past week, 100 out of 140 nations, 4 abstained, 136 voted to do this in every one of those 140 countries to implement a 15% global corporate tax. This is just one more piece of the puzzle to get us to what the church used to be very vocal about, a one world government and one world order. The church, I remember it so well, hearing the one world, and you never heard it anywhere but in the church, and now you hear it on the news agencies, and a new world and a one world and a global world. Everywhere but the church. The church is not even talking about it any longer. This is why I'm asking you to at least take a look at what's happening today. At least be as informed as these 10 virgins. See, when we look at these virgins, first of all, because we have the ability to look back, we see that these 10 virgins are now, they fall into 2 groups. 5 of them were in each group. One group is called foolish, and the other were called wise, or foolish and sensible. All of these 10 girls, they fell in one of those groups. Now, we know from the Scripture, it actually broke down in the middle, 5 and 5. 5 were foolish and 5 were wise. So, what we have here, now, it's very easy for us to the symbolism of who the virgins are, or representing as being part of this wedding party, and who the bridegroom is, for sure, being Christ. But what we want to do here today is to take something from this that can help us to get to a point that we don't make the mistake that they made. So they all had something in common. They all had a level of preparedness in common. Every one of them had torches that would speak, or to the extent of how they were prepared. Now, and not that it matters, but I've done a decent study on this, and it's not a lamp. It is a torch where they would wrap the rags around it. It is a torch of that, not necessarily a lamp. But again, that doesn't matter. But also, I began to read. There's an author, and I can only remember his last name. I believe it's Jeremiah. I think his first name was like Joachim or something like that. But it doesn't matter. But he points out that it was necessary. Let me just read what he says. That it was necessary to pour oil on the rags at the end of the torches to get them to burn brightly. But these girls had not bothered to bring the necessary oil. He says, their negligence can no longer be judged as lack of foresight, excusable by the unexpectedly long delay of the bridegroom. It must be judged as inexcusable, punishable carelessness. That's his opinion on that. Whatever the case may be, these girls were not ready. One reason that they were probably not ready was the bridegroom, delayed his coming. Now, we may ask, why did he delay? Well, there's no reason given, and there's no reason necessary. Now, let me make this statement just for clarity. When it comes to the things of God, He does not react to anything. He doesn't need to react to anything. He knows all things. But here's the thing about it. these girls knew there was a possibility that the bridegroom would be delayed. It was common. It was not uncommon for the bridegroom to may take his time. So maybe there wasn't a sense of urgency, but they knew that he could be delayed. And they knew also that he would show up at some point. They just didn't know when. And today it's the same with us. We don't know when, but I will tell you, while we are here, we can either be, we're going to be classified either as sensible or foolish. And the reason I say that is, you know, and listen, I'm not going to take anything away from anyone, but I will tell you, if we do not understand the time we're living in, it comes upon us unaware. If we are not very, very, very careful, it will nullify us where we will not be of any benefit to the Lord at all. Because there'll be two groups that you will fall into when these things begin to unfold. You're either going to be able to help take care and to move forward, or you're going to need somebody to take care of you. And it's fine. There's sometimes in our life that we need help, but when we know and we can see, it's so clear that we can see that there's something on the horizon. It should warrant each one of us to at least, like I said last week, start spending some time with God in prayer and see where He moves us. I'm telling you, this parable or allegory, whatever you want to call this, maybe bits of both. It's not there just to speak about the girls that didn't make it, and we preach sermons that they didn't make it because they wasn't really part of the party, part of the wedding party. It goes beyond that. You know, and plus I've heard sermons preached that they wasn't aware. They were slumber. They were asleep. And they was not awake and they was not alert. So they missed it. They didn't have time to get the things ready. That is not true. That is a very improper and false interpretation and an ideology. All 10 of these were asleep. There's not a problem with sleeping. None at all. They had no idea when the bridegroom was coming. Actually, sleep is a good thing. You know, if eating and sleeping, when I first started working EMS, there was an old head that took me under his wing, and one thing that he taught me right out of the gate, and if you've ever worked in any type of emergency medicine, or if you've ever worked in the health field or any job where you are called at a moment's notice, and I don't care how many hours. Listen, I have worked 140 plus hours before in 7 days. I know what it's like to be able not to even make it home, and your pager goes off and you turn around and go right back to work. I know what it's like to go to work and never leave for 2 or 3 days. And he taught me this one thing. He said, Roger, you learn to eat and you learn to sleep every chance you get. Because when the call comes, you need to be alert and you need to have your strength. So the Bible doesn't say the 5 foolish were asleep. It said the girls were napping and they went to sleep. That's a natural thing. That's not a problem. But in the process, either one of the girls got up or someone close by somewhere seen the bridegroom. And the call went out. The bridegroom is coming. Get up. and go out and meet him. Until we get to this point in the Bible, we cannot find any difference between these girls. Every one of them had a torch. They all had the rags that you would have to wrap around to be able to light the torch. Everyone had the same thing. But when it come time to go, there was a lot of things exposed. The difference between these two groups now all of a sudden began to appear. And listen, you can walk out here. You have the right, you have the freedom, you have the free will to walk out here and believe what you want to, but that free will not change the truth. And I'm going to tell you, if you choose to just disregard this, you better make sure you know what you are doing. Because I'm promising you, every one of us, and I do not care if every person that's ever breathed an ounce of air on this earth were alive and able to hear this message today all the way from Adam. The world has never seen where we're going. It has never seen, nor has it ever experienced where we're going. This is the Lord even says that this is going to be so bad that He's going to have to shorten up the time. Now, all of a sudden, you find these 5 foolish girls, they find themselves in trouble, for their torches are going out. And immediately, for whatever reason, because I'm quite confident, they had noticed that some of these other girls were making the provisions in case there was a delay, in case he came at night. They were making all the provisions. And again, the point I'm not driving the point home that you need to try to get you to do something, other than I'm driving the point home is to get us to open up our eyes and to see the day and time we're living in. The Bible talks about the sons of Issachar, I believe. And forgive me if I get his name right, but he said these men not only know the day and time they're living in, but they also understand and know what they must be doing. This is just wisdom to be able to do this, and we should be doing this. But see, what's getting ready to transpire now, today we would call it unchristian-like. Because now these girls realize they're in trouble, and immediately they go to the girls and say, "Give us some of your oil." And the answer is, no, not giving it to you. I can sit here and tell you why they didn't need to, but the end result is they didn't. Somebody was going to have to meet the bridegroom. But they said no. They did not give it to them. Now, if we're talking about our salvation, you can't give that to someone. You can't hand that off. But in this case, They told him, they said, no, what you need to do is, and this is in the middle of the night, is you need to go to the store and buy some. I think it was quite comical, because I didn't think that we had 24-hour service until just later, but either they had a 24-hour market where they could go and buy the oil, or they knew the store owner and would have to go and get them up from bed, get them to come open up their place of business, sell them some oil, go back to the party, because it's evident that the place to get the oil was not on their route to the bridegroom. These 5 said, if we give you any of our oil, none of us will make it. So you need to go, and I'm quite confident that even when they told them that, they probably are thinking, you need to run to the store, get this, come back, it's going to be fine. You'll just be a little bit late. When they got there, the Bible doesn't say anything about the bridegroom saying, where are the rest of the party? Now understand, also being at night, this was going to be a spectacular showing to go meet the bridegroom. They were going to be lighting up the pathway. I mean, a huge light in the middle of a darkness. We're going to see the bridegroom. We're going to meet him. You know, we're going to finish up this wedding process. So they knew they had to go. And when the 5 got there, you would immediately think, especially when you look at the bridegroom, in this instance we refer to as Christ, would be the first one that would lead them into the wedding chapel or the wedding hall or wherever that would be, the bride's place, his home, his residence. Maybe the girls were at the residence of the bride. But whatever the case may be, you would think that he would be the one leading them in, but he's not. He's the last one to come in because he has to do something. Shut the door. Folks, this does not make good Christianity, the way we look at Christianity today. In Christianity today, there's no such word as no. There's no such word as anything. It's always got to be. And I understand in helping and doing the best we can. But at the end of the day, our focus is on Christ. And with this, the focus was on the bridegroom. Not the other 5 ladies who their oil was gone. This delay had huge consequences. Now, I will tell you that we can walk through this life. All these things can happen. We're not prepared or ready, then what will happen? We become so overwhelmed with, just like we have with COVID. Think about it. Think about since COVID, how it has disrupted your life. And now with the masking, the social distancing, how it's now even disrupted our interaction. Folks, I don't even know who I can shake hands with anymore. Not that I have a problem shaking hands. I just don't know who does have a problem. And if someone, and I respect that. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying, look what it's done. I don't even walk in hospitals anymore. And I understand the hospital's doing what they have to do, but whenever they have opened it up for one person to visit, that one person that wants to visit is family member, not me. It's completely disarrayed our life. Well, we can either, now one thing I'll agree with with Klaus Schwab. We can either learn from COVID and now make sure that we are better prepared for what's coming than we were for COVID. Because if we are not, we will fall in one of two groups. We'll fall into the group that was ready or the group that was not ready. And I'm going to tell you, if you wait until the middle of a storm to start trying to get ready, there's a good chance it's not going to work. We have to make the necessary moves right now, and the first one has to start with, do I believe there is something going on? Or do I think everything is fine, this is just a hiccup in the road? Listen, folks, even the people that are running the country knows there's, even our president, he will, with one word and a lot of the media, they're telling you about how the economy is recovering and the job market. It is so bad, they question our president about the jobs, and he turns his back and walks out because he does not want to reveal what's really happening. And this $3.5 trillion package deal, what can I say? On a better note, whether you agree or disagree with our governor, tomorrow, Governor Lee and his wife is inviting the citizens of Tennessee to join him and his wife in a day of prayer and fasting. Now, we may not agree with everything that our governor's doing, but we better thank God that we've got a governor that will at least recognize we need divine intervention right now. And we need it terribly, terribly bad. Folks, you know we're living in a different world, and it's a world that we've not been exposed to. And I was making that point in Sunday school. All those characteristics that was written on the board were very necessary because these Jewish people were getting ready to be introduced to Christianity rather than Judaism. Well, we are being introduced to an entirely different world that we've never been a part of, and the only thing that we can rely on and trust is the things of God and the examples that we find in His Word to help us to be able to still be counted among one of the laborers that's working the field. I understand now why the writer said, pray for laborers, because the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. The Christian world needs to wake up to where we're living and the time that we're living.